Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Remote No Pressure podcast. Like I say every week, I know it's kind of ridiculous. Every single week I say the same thing. I'm excited. I'm excited that you're joining us for another episode of the podcast. I'm so excited to be behind the microphone another week to do the podcast. And we've had a lot of different people on the podcast. We've had quite a few entrepreneurs and fishing guides. And they're all kind of different points in their career. Take, for instance, last week we had Kyle on our podcast, and he's just now starting his career. This is his first year as a fishing guide, and we're going to follow him through the year on our podcast. And we're so excited, and we're encouraging him to just go crush it, And then we've had people like Rick Pope who are very established in the fly fishing world, and he's done some awesome things, and everybody knows him, and he's just a fantastic person, and just to see all he's done. This week we're interviewing Sara, and Sara is in the middle of it. She's in the grind. She is an entrepreneur doing great things. And one of the questions I asked her that really stood out especially after I edited the episode, because then you listen to things back and you kind of listen to the nuances and things. One of the questions I asked her is, what is so scary about doing what you love? Sara found fly fishing, and it helped her through a horrible tragedy. And ultimately, on the other end of that, she found what Sara was born to do. Welcome to the podcast. Let's light the fire. Well, today on the Remote No Pressure podcast, I'm super excited because we have an awesome guest today, Sara Camiscioni. Did I say that right, Sara?
Camiscioni. Yeah, it's close enough.
That's awful. That's not being a good host of anything, of any podcast or anything. But thank you very much for being on our show. We chatted on Instagram, and whenever someone likes our Instagram at Remote No Pressure, we always reach out to them. We say thank you very much for following. We try to engage with some of our audience or our followers, just because we're just so grateful. And Sara, I just want to say we're very grateful that you chose to follow us. Thank you so much.
Thanks. I think it's awesome that you guys take the time in a very busy kind of social media world to actually acknowledge your followers and make that personal connection. It goes a long way. And here I am on your podcast. So it's working well for you.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're very happy. And the reason I wanted to reach out to you, and the reason I wanted you to come on the podcast in particular, Sara, is because we really appreciate all that you're doing in the industry. And can you just tell us a little bit about what you do right now? And then what we'll do is we'll kind of talk and take the backstory, how you got to where you are. But can you tell us a little bit about what you're up to these days?
Yeah. So I primarily run a mostly women. I will still acknowledge I do work with men. I run a mostly women strength and nutrition coaching business called Find Your Strong with Sara. And I've been doing that for a couple of years here in Denver and online. And then I also have taken over the role of the women's fishing program director at Arbor Anglers, a fly shop out here in Golden, Colorado. So between the two, and then now also raising a puppy, those are really where I spend my time. It's kind of hard. People ask, like, what do you do besides, fish or, run your business? And it's really hard for me to answer because that's really a lot of who I am, is working with people and women and with my business and coaching my clients, or working on my business and fishing, or all that comes along with fishing, running the women's program, traveling to a place to fish, to hike to a lake to fish, or traveling to meet friends to fish. So between the two, it's a lot about fitness and fishing. That's the name of my game, really.
So what do the two have in common? Why did you choose those two to put together?
That's a good question. So the fitness side was really just a natural development. I went to undergrad and grad school for art history, but I was always a competitive athlete, a long distance runner with injuries. That took me to the weight room, and that took me to strength training. In grad school, one of my colleagues just hit a light bulb for me when, after, months and months and months, I'm a drowning grad student, just like super swamped in all my work. And on the side, I'm just like constantly giving people like workout advice or programs or coaching them on their nutrition, just like information. And she came to me one day and she's like, you should probably charge people for this. Like, you should do this. And I just was like, I had never put two and two together. And I was always very paranoid about monetizing something that was a passion. And so, I just started working with people on the side, one-on-one, and loving it and loving working with people to see how they could grow through strength training. Everyone came to me to change the shape or appearance of their body, but what happens months later or even years later is that they go through a much bigger transformation, because once we start peeling back the layers, it's never just about like a shape or appearance. It's really a lot of stuff that's going on deeper. So that, I'm all about the kind of nitty gritty in life and kind of facing things head on. And so that really resonated with me. And it really just was an organic growth of my business in attracting all those people to me that are really looking to just live their strongest life. And with fishing and having the women's program now, it's really kind of the same as my business, in the sense of I'm all about empowering people to get out there and go after what they want in their lives. And the correlation between being stronger in the gym, I mean, it only makes you stronger in your life. So if you feel more confident and competent in your body and the way that you can move and hold yourself and carry yourself in all these situations, mix that with a little bit of education and exposure and accessibility to a river and fly fishing, and you're more likely to go out there and go after what you want, regardless of if you have someone to fish with or not, regardless of if you have a boyfriend to fish with or not, or regardless of if you know anything or not. If you have those tools and those strategies, you can create what you want in your life. So I guess that's kind of why I do it.
Let me ask this question. What's the problem, or what, you had said you were concerned about monetizing a passion. Can you tell me why you were concerned, or what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, and this was, that's a mindset that I had in my, early to mid 20s. And it was kind of based off the fact that I had gone to undergrad and graduate school and taken a path to become a professional in the world of art history, a professor working in an art gallery or a museum. So as soon as I started really pursuing that passion, which was art, and pursuing it as a career, it really changed my relationship with it. And I was scared to do that again with anything else like fitness or fishing, because those things are very personal to me. They are something that I need to have in my life as refuge, as, my me time. And when you play with what that me time is to the public, sometimes it can be dangerous. And so I was hesitant to do that. But I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way. It was probably one of the best decisions I've made. And it's only enhanced my relationship with, my strength and my body, as well as my clients. I've helped a lot of women and people, enter that relationship for themselves. So it worked out pretty well so far.
Let me ask you this question, Sarah. Is that really? I mean, you had said it was dangerous. What is the danger behind doing what you love?
Oh my gosh, you're asking these questions. I mean, when you put it like that, I think, again, when I was younger in my 20s, there's so much, and the way that I was raised, a single mom, and who was fearful in her own life and her access to things in her life. I think I've read a lot of I've read a lot of books, and one of them, I can't put the name on it right now, where they talk about how when you're so happy or when you're doing something like that, you're kind of always waiting for the other shoe to drop, instead of actually just being in the moment of enjoying the fruits of that labor.
Right.
So I think it was a bit of that. And I mean, I think your podcast and what you're doing in the community is different. And I think there's a huge shift happening that's different. But previously, it's kind of taboo to actually like love what you do and like love your life and be like super grateful and happy, like, I mean, I don't feel that that's the case for me anymore or for my clients, because I live that life that I love and that mixes pleasure with work. And a lot of the clients that come to me are experiencing those same things, like attracts like. But previously, I think before the shift that we've all had as a society, it was asking for too much to actually like your life, your job, like pursue a passion and get paid for it. Like, who does that happen to, at least that's my experience with kind of like the left side of thinking, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And the reason I ask you these questions, Sarah, is because we have a lot of people on our podcast and with similar stories and with they've chosen to do something passionate in the industry, um, and it's not normal.
And I think, I think the other side of it is that sometimes especially starting off, it can be hard to see how you can be successful. How can you be successful? How can you make money? How can you support yourself? So there's, again, like it's all fear. It's all fear based of that kind of keeps people held back, I think. So, but I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole with that kind of conversation, which I don't think you want to do. So
no, and it's not meant to dominate the conversation, but there's a lot of people that listen. I think part of the fear too is that we're raised with this certain mindset. Go to school, get a degree that pays well, and then go to graduate school or get your PhD, or society has a plan for us. And when you raise your hand and you're like, no, I don't want to do that, they're like, well, what the heck are you thinking? And you're like, this is not what I want to do with my life. So go ahead.
I'm just like nodding. I'm just like, yes. I mean, that's exactly what I was trying to say without getting too woo-woo philosophical. But, my whole life, my whole life, I kind of like marched to the beat of my own drum. I tried to like follow the societal norms, and I tried to go to college right after high school. That didn't work. And, I tried to do the 8 to 5. It didn't work. I tried to do all those things, and it just wasn't fitting with me. I didn't feel right with it. And, you have to take a big leap to say, you know what? This isn't for me. This does not feel right. And I'm going to do something else. And then to actually stick and commit to that when there's a lot of naysayers, when there's a lot of fear, when there's a lot of uncertainty and doubt, and then to just keep marching to the beat of your own drum. I mean, in a world where people are trying to get you to turn around and walk with everyone else. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart.
Wait, when you stepped out and you made that leap, did you get a lot of pushback?
I mean, throughout different leaps in my life, I've experienced some pushback in certain different ways, either from family or from, employers or bosses or boyfriends, or doubtful friends that meant well, but still they spoke up on their own fears and insecurities and projected them out to me. Yes and no, of course. Yeah. But, that's why you keep people around you that are going to support you and give you the truth while also still like having your back.
And you got to be brave enough that even when you're getting criticized and your truth, you've got to keep going for it.
Yes. Amen to that.
I get really passionate about it, because this podcast is kind of born in the same way. I had a career in finance, and all I want to do is play my guitar and go fly fishing, because that's what I'm passionate about. And I talk way too much. I'm the guy in the office everyone avoids because I talk way too much. And I'm like, how can I put these three things together? And then the podcast was born. That's it.
I love it. I mean, and that's, anyone that's going after what they really want to do is going to face some doubt. And that's when the work really takes place, where you just put your head down and you just keep going, and you keep going until it doesn't work anymore, until it's not a viable financial option, or until it's just not working. Even if it takes some like downhill slides and there are down months, etc., like as long as it continues to work for you, you keep going. And it takes a lot of trust in yourself and everything that you're doing in order to go when things are feeling low. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. This is, I've been there, I've been there where there are months and months and months when you're just like, is this going to work? Is this going to work? I don't know. And you have to keep going. And, my therapist gave me the best advice. She's like, and she's an entrepreneur. She's been an entrepreneur for 25 years running her own practice. She goes, as long as it's still working. When it no longer works for you and it's no longer a viable option, that's when you explore something else. But as long as it is still working, you keep going. So here we are.
That's excellent. There's a lot of people out there that may be thinking of getting into the industry or maybe becoming a fishing guide or something like that. I just want to encourage them to do that. Or maybe you just want to be an accountant. Then do that, do whatever you're passionate about. So
do whatever makes you happy. However you want to spend your time, like that's how you want to spend your time, and just do it. And I like to say, be relentlessly unapologetic about how you want to spend your time, and just go for it, because it's your time, it's your life.
That's right. Well, speaking of your life, let's take it back. So now we kind of know what you're up to. We know the risk that you've taken. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into fly fishing, Sara?
Yeah. So I actually grew up in South Florida on the beach. I'm a bona fide through and through beach baby. And grew up all around the water, swimming, diving, snorkeling, learning how to fish on my friend's boat, going out on her boat a couple times a week for years, offshore fishing, going down to the Keys to fish. Nothing really on the fly until I moved to Colorado. So after living in Kansas, I went to, Florida, I went to Kansas for undergrad and grad. And I have some family there. We have farms and ponds out in the country. So bass fishing and a lot of still water, all spin rod. It was just I was always around the water. I'm also an Aquarius, so it's in my blood to be a water baby. I feel at this point in my life, like I'm a water person. So, I left Kansas like 2 days after I finished grad school. I just drove west. I was like, I'm out, and I just wanted to get back outdoors and be in a new place to explore. So I drove to Colorado and spent a couple months just puttering around, trying to figure out, my place and where I wanted to be spending my time. And I had a good friend, their family's got a little place out on the the Roaring Fork out in Carbondale over on the slope. And he's like, why don't you just come out and hang out for the weekend? No one's out here. I've got the house to myself, and I can teach you how to fly fish. And I was all about that. I mean, I was like, heck yeah, like that sounds great. I went out there and had just a great time. So they've got this house on gold medal. I don't think the Fork is gold medal, actually. But arguably really great fishing water. I'll just say that. And, we gear up and we just walk out the back house down a little bit of BLM land, and you're on the river. And, that's where I learned how to fish. And he knew all the holes and the water and could just put me into fish so very quickly. And I was getting into fish, and it was just so much fun to me, being a water in like South Floridian. I'm out there, it's March, but it's like 70 degrees. I've got my waders on and a bikini top and like a fedora, and I'm just like sunbathing and fishing. And for me, I got a lot of looks, but for me, I was just having a great time, like enjoying myself and, combining the sun and the water and catching fish. So I spent that whole weekend. We went to some stillwater ponds and the Fork and the Pan and some creeks, and we just fished. And he just taught me, basics of how to cast and how to present my fly and read water. And pun intended, I've had to insert that because this is punny, but I was hooked. Like, I was just like, it just felt so good to me to be able to be outside like that in the water and doing something that was so immersive. So I'm texting my mom and I'm sharing all these photos of all the fish and this fun stuff. And she's just like, this is so cool. I'm so happy for you. So I drive back to Denver and call my mom and, find out, without going into too much detail about it, that she had just died, just like overnight, had a heart attack and just passed away.
Mm.
So, that was on a Monday. I had come back Sunday night. I fished all that weekend previous, and she passed away on Monday. So I had a trip planned to go back up to the Fork with my friend that Thursday, Friday. I had taken time off work and everything. So, when she died, I just, I went back to the house. I went back to the thing that I was doing most joyously in the moments leading up to her death, and the thing that was really bringing me a lot of joy. So I went back there and forced myself to go fish and just be out there again and kind of give myself some healing. And since then, pretty much for a good year and a half, it was just full blown fishing for me. I took emergency illness time through my job, which was really great that I was able to take that. And I used that time away from work to go fish, because for me at that point, it was really transformative for me to just be on the water and be calm and be still and kind of connect with myself and connect with nature and just be really in the moment with what I was doing. No distractions. Can't really spend too much time idling off in your head with your thoughts when you're trying to focus on the water and be safe and catch fish. So, and then it was also just really healing for me to just feel like I was connected with my mom, because that was the last thing I was doing when she was alive and we were sharing it together via text and phone, because she was back in Florida. So, doing that just kept me close to her. And that's what that was about for a real long time. It was about me going into the water and into the wilderness so that I could silence out the world and connect with my mom. And so I didn't really fish with anybody it's only been about a year now that I've really kind of opened up the social aspect of fishing, which has completely changed it, and for the better. It's great to. I was listening to another one of your podcasts. I think it was Sarah Lindstrom, talking about how she normally fishes alone a lot too. And, you open up the social aspect, and it's great. It's fun. And some of my closest friends now are people I've met on the water or through fishing. And friendships are forged a lot quicker when we're taking trips and spending a lot of time together on the water and going through those situations together. So, that's kind of how I got into fly fishing. And yeah.
Well, that's excellent, Sarah. Now, let me ask you this question. Now, you help people with their physical bodies and working out and all of that. When you're talking to them and you're introducing them to fly fishing, let's say, in particular, a female who, may have never been, fly fishing before. Can you walk us through how you introduce someone to fly fishing, especially a female angler or someone who's never been fishing before? How do you introduce them to fly fishing, Sarah?
Well, that's a big one. So if we're not on the water, we just had our Women on the Fly event at the shop maybe last month, I think it was, and we had 70 women. 60 women had never been in a shop before. And I think at least 40 to 50 of them, 40 maybe, had never even been fishing. So introducing them to the sport at that point was about getting them in the shop and getting them talking with other girls about fishing, sharing my story about what it means for me, so that they can see the kind of deeper benefit that you may not think is there right off the bat. Like, oh, it's just fishing. So I think it's, for me, I'm super transparent and real with people. So I think that helps open up their eyes to things. But then in terms of actually getting people out on the water, we've got a couple events planned actually in the near future where we're going to take the girls out. And we've got a free event coming up in a couple weeks where it's going to be women on the water. We're going to take them out. We're going to show them how to like read the water, present their flies. I think that introducing women to fly fishing is a pretty big responsibility that any ambassador to the river carries. Regardless of my position with Arbor Anglers or the Fly Shop, I feel that it's my responsibility to be transparent with women that are interested in fly fishing and showing them that it's a great way to be outside. It's a great way to connect with nature. It's a great way to be in and around the water and be active and engaged and really kind of in the zone with something that you're doing. So, you know, from presentations in the store to taking people on the river and showing them how to get into the water and move around safely and successfully land fish, I think that the introduction to the sport is pretty vast and varied, honestly. I'm not sure if I have like a really good answer for that, except for the one I just kind of created.
Yeah, you know, we had Dave McCoy on the podcast earlier. I think he was like episode 5 or something, and he talked about the responsibility of the person introducing you to the sport and how important it is, you know, for them to introduce you the right way, because those are the habits that you carry on through your angling life. You know, if your dad teaches you to drink beer and throw the can on the side of the river and your cigarette butts and everything else, and you grow up and that's all you know, well, then that's all you know. You know, you have to unlearn that behavior. So he talks, you know, he talked into great detail about, you know, introducing people, and it sounds like you kind of take the same approach. And there's a reverence there, like you said, you were the ambassador for your river and for the sport. So that's great. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the what you feel? I'm from Texas, Sarah, so sometimes, and I talk like I'm from Michigan now, but there are certain words like siren, like on an ambulance. I say siren, but really it should be siren. That's how they say it in Michigan, or actually
Yeah,
siren,
I,
like
I
that.
didn't even know what word you were trying to say. I was like, what are you saying?
Right. And one of those is feeling. I have a hard time saying feeling in a normal way without like sounding dumb. So, all right. So, apologize.
I can't tell if you said ceiling or feeling. Like
Oh,
I can't tell between all your accents. They're too confusing for me.
you know, I got some video because, you know, I don't know. What year were you born, if you don't mind me asking?
No, that's fine. 85.
Okay, I was born in 80, right? And as you know, being an 80s kid, there's not a lot of like video. Well, I grew up pretty lower middle class, so we didn't have a video
Yep.
camera, right?
Yep.
So my stepmom sent me this DVD that she had a videotape burned to DVD and sent them up to me. And I'm from like deep East Texas when I was a kid, and I sound like a redneck, like you wouldn't believe. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't. And then I moved to Houston, then I moved to Michigan, so my accents are just jacked up. I
I
don't know.
mean, I say y'all so much that when I text and I type in the word talk, it auto corrects. It auto corrects to y'all. So I'll leave that one right there.
Yeah, great. Well, can you tell us a little bit about some of the mental benefits? I mean, you've talked a little bit about recovering from the tragedy of your mom and all that, but what are some of those things that are how, what are some of the benefits of fly fishing mentally, not just physically? But it seems to me like you've kind of got a yin and a yang. You've got like the physical thing and also like this spiritual slash Zen thing going on with the fly fishing. Is that kind of the reason why why you feel fly fishing so important to your
I mean,
practice?
one of my favorite things to do is and it's coming up into that time here in Colorado, alpine season, like around beginning of July, maybe early June, because we've had a really, really short spring and short winter, and we're already at the peak of our runoff right now. One of my favorite things to do is like physically trudge myself up the side of a mountain, like just like for hours in this like laborious kind of hike where it's just me. I'm alone. It's the middle of the week. There's not a lot of people out there. And I've just got like everything running through my mind that I need to work through in terms of my life or clarity on a business project or, you know, creative ideas for things for my clients or for my business. And for me, that 2, 3, 4 hour hike up to the lake is that time in which all that stuff just is background noise. But it I also have a lot of breakthroughs and clarity around, you know, really good ideas for all those areas of my life. So there's that physical side of it. And then it's like you hit this peak of the mountain and you're exhausted. And then all these thoughts are like going crazy and you finally figure everything out that you want to take action on. And then you go downhill and you land on the lake and you just are super chill and peaced out and you're just fishing. So, you know, I'm I like both. I like that physical side of it, but then that mental side of it. And um, you know, for me, getting out on the river, and this is why I've been pretty particular with people I fish with, because for me, taking the time away from my business to commit to driving into the mountains or getting into the water, like that's time away from my business. And, you know, I respect my time and other people's times very, very preciously. So I use that time very, very wisely and efficiently and purposefully, I guess is the word I was looking for. And it means a lot to me to have a certain kind of experience when I'm out there, you know, depending on what I'm going through with my life. Like I've had a puppy. I haven't been fishing much for almost 3 weeks, and it's hard on me mentally because I've not had that release. And when I say release, it's the joy of driving on a dirt road with no cell phone service, listening to some Tom Petty with the windows down, or, you know, cruising out to classic rock, going up to the river, and then just gearing up. And, you know, that familiar routine, and like routine is ritual, and walking to the water and just, you know, again, growing up at the water and just hearing the beach and the waves on the beach, and then going to the river and hearing the water just like constantly flowing. It's very meditative and calming for me. So, but before I forget, because you brought up a really good point about a previous podcast host and how, you know, we introduce people to the river, and it's really important as ambassadors. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because you know, when I was introduced to the sport, I wasn't really taught a lot about the finer intricacies of being a responsible angler. And it took me years to learn what was quote unquote right or wrong. And I made a lot of mistakes, and I learned the hard way. And for better, for worse, I know better. And I was also able to find, you know, additional mentors and get myself involved with shops like Arbor and other educational, you know, programs here in Denver, so that I became a more educated, informed angler, so that I can impart that now on other women that are coming into the sport, so that they off the bat are more in the know, instead of having to go through all that kind of grunt work like I did, you know, in particular, without having a mentor to be like, okay, here's really ethical fish handling, and here's why we do this with the fish. And, you know, think about every time you pick them up, you've got about 10 seconds that you're holding your breath if you're trying to take a picture, like all that stuff. And, you know, you sparked that thought in me when you were talking about how being raised, you know, if you're raised to, you know, trash up the river, you're going to trash it up until you know better. So I feel like that's also something that I really wanted to make sure I circled back on, because I know I didn't know until I knew, and I'm trying to keep women and help them not have to go through that difficult learning process, and protect our water more and protect our fisheries more, and impart that knowledge that I learned the hard way, so that they don't have to go through that, and nor do the rivers or the fish. So
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I got one more question for you, Sarah. What makes Tom Petty so great for a road trip?
mm. Have you ever seen Tom Petty in concert?
No, I haven't.
Well, obviously, like we're not going to see Tom Petty anymore,
I
unfortunately.
know, I know. He was in town, and tickets were like $75 a piece, and I wish I would have bought them,
You
but
know,
whatever.
it was like 3.5, 4 years ago, my ex-boyfriend, a good friend of mine, calls me up. He's like, "Hey, I got 3 tickets. I won them off the radio for a concert tonight at Red Rocks. It's for Tom Petty. Do you want him? I don't want to."
Oh my
He goes,
gosh.
"Do you want him? I don't want to go." And I was like, "What? You don't want to go?" I was like, "I will take them." We ended up going to we ended up going together, and I mean, that's the music of my childhood.
Right.
You know, my mom was like a hippie. You know, I grew up on Tom Petty, and I don't know his sound. I mean, he's just classic American rock and roll, and there's something that just takes me back to, you know, a memory and childhood and my mom, and just fun and happiness. And the minute I put it on and I hit cruise control and I hit the road, I mean,
Yes.
like literally, like, I mean,
Yes.
it happens. And I mean, like, I live in Colorado. We drive through the mountains. It's beautiful. You know, like, it's sunny 360 days out of the year. You got the windows down and you got Tom Petty and just great lyrics, and it's a soundtrack to a great weekend. No doubt. I will be playing him this weekend as I go hit the road to get to the river. Good Tom.
Well, that's a great way to end it because I totally agree with everything you said. It's the best road. I only have because I got a CD player in my car. Like that's a rare thing these days, and I only have one CD in there, and it's Tom Petty. And the reason I have that is because I love all the songs, so I just put it in and just drive.
I love it.
It's all you need. You only need one CD.
That's all you need. I've got the Tom Petty Sirius XM radio, and it's like the only thing that's ever in my car.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, thank you
I
very
love
much.
it.
Thank you very much for joining us, Sarah. If someone wanted to get in touch with you or check out what you're up to, how would they do that?
Yeah, thanks. Instagram's probably the best way. My Instagram's Find Your Strong with Sarah. And to everybody that doesn't know, it's Sarah without an H. So no H on the Sarah. And the fly shop, Arbor Anglers, out there in Golden. And I'd love, if you're listening to this and you want to shoot me a message, you have any questions, I love connecting with people on Instagram just like you do. And thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And we'll put all those links on our website at remotenopressure.com. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much. And you have a great night.
Thanks, you too.
Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Remote No Pressure podcast. Don't forget, go to our website at remotenopressure.com. Sign up for our mailing list. Also, check out the limited edition Remote No Pressure bags from Deli Fresh Design. We're so excited about those bags, and they're fantastic. They're awesome bags. And until next time, go fishing.